How did you get attached to this project? What was it that allowed you to become a part of this story?
Well, the director, Ivy Camille, Many Beats So, and I met while we were both working on separate projects in Navajo Nation, and I immediately could see that she is a brilliant talent, and so excited to work with her and collaborate with her. And she was 19 years old. She started making movies at the age of 9. She made an award-winning film called In the Footsteps of Yellow Woman when she was 13 years old. It played at, I think, 80 film festivals around the world, won awards all over. So at the age of 19, she'd already been an award-winning filmmaker for 6 or 7 years. And we worked on this film for 7 years. So she, we've grown together on the process of making this film. And the film grew and changed over time. But I think the heart of it is just her own personal story of living in Navajo Nation and seeing her own community disrupted and following the trail of these chemical companies that have polluted her land, and seeing other indigenous communities resisting and fighting back.
So let's talk about the travel. Obviously, this film goes to 3 different areas and showcases those companies destroying those areas. I'm curious, logistically, how much of a struggle was this to happen, to make this film, to get the camera people out there to get some of the interactions we get to see and witness? One of the more powerful moments is it's not a dining room, but a giant meeting where we get one of the executives in a room, basically, and they kind of just blow off the questions of these people. To get that footage was incredible. I'm curious, 7 years, how tough was this project to make? Because obviously those companies don't want this film out there.
Yeah, it was a long process. The first step was always we would do research into these different communities that were facing these issues. And we really found early on that in pretty much every country on earth, you can find this issue of indigenous people being forced off their land, first in this early process of colonialism, and then whatever land they were forced onto maybe a couple hundred years ago, they're now being forced off that again because suddenly we found coal or oil or some other chemicals or minerals underneath the land that are valuable, and they're being pushed off again. And in every place, people are resisting. They're using appeals to human rights and international forums. They're using media. They're using protests and direct action. So we found this happening everywhere. And then we really started talking to communities and say, would it be helpful for you if we filmed with you? Would it be helpful for you if we come? What is the part of the story that hasn't been told? And so we really, from the beginning, tried to be accountable to and communication with those communities, and really followed their lead in all of these places. And we nearly filmed in a lot of places that for whatever reason it didn't work out. We nearly filmed in South Africa, in Uganda, in Morocco, in a couple different other spots in Latin America. None of us that worked on this production come from a wealthy background, and so this whole film, I think it looks beautiful. I think Ivy Camille is an incredible photographer. Melissa Cardona, who's also the cinematographer, she filmed beautifully, but it's held together with Scotch tape and rubber bands and duct tape to make it happen. We did on a really low budget, and so much of it was filming on that low budget. I don't know if that answers all your question, but that's maybe some of it.
No, it's enlightening because it is like a David Goliath feel. You're up against these corporations that, as is put in the film, we've done nothing illegal. That sentiment continues to be said by these companies. I mean, these are some of the wealthiest companies on the planet. Did it feel that David Goliath feel? I mean, is it, you've covered enough of these stories, you've seen enough of this type of difference. Is it difficult just to fathom battling the Goliaths like you guys do? Because this film does that in a magical way.
Thank you. In a way, I mean, I feel like we're just trying to tell people's stories. I think these indigenous communities, including people that are in community with Ivy Camille, the director, they are really on the front line fighting this struggle, and we're just helping to give voice to them. You know, I don't want to glamorize us too much and say that we're really in that struggle. You know, we're just trying to show how inspired we are by these voices. And, you know, looking at some of the places we filmed, like Mexico, in the film, you know, they mentioned that there's these wind farms, and that, you know, wind is this green form of energy, right? But that nobody in the community, especially these indigenous communities nearby, is getting any of the energy from the wind farm. It's all being sent over to corporations. And in Bentonville, I have to mention, it's actually mainly Walmart Mexico that's getting the energy from that wind farm that is there in Oaxaca. So, you know, these corporations are close at hand that are, you know, that are not sharing the resources with the people on whose land these resources are coming from.
So I'm going to ask you a question that's going to further what you just said. I'm curious, getting into this festival, both a blessing in showcasing diversity and an extremely young filmmaker doing great things at her age, but also it's very much a corporate festival. And the fact that you're a film that goes against corporations of doing certain things, not just against corporations, it's a bad way to say it, but how weird of a dynamic is that? That's got to be something unique being here in Bentonville. It's got to be a blessing, but also kind of a unique chance to talk to different people. I mean, Doug McMillan was here last night. I mean, that's such a weird, unique bubble we're in right now to discuss, you know, films like this that matter and hopefully can make change.
You know, when we think about this film, we think about our top audiences as, first of all, being the people in these frontline communities that are facing it, but also the people that are living in the communities that are profiting off of this. You know, in the film, Ivy Camille says the power, the energy, the electricity in Phoenix, in Vegas, in Los Angeles, it's coming from our land. And we really, I'm thrilled to bring this to Bentonville and to talk about Walmart's role in this. You know, also in Colombia, the main characters that we talked to in Colombia were, some of them have had to flee because they face death threats from armed paramilitary groups. And Coca-Cola, another sponsor of this festival, you know, they were sued for sponsoring right-wing paramilitary groups in Colombia. From 1990 to 2003, 9 Colombian trade union activists were killed by these right-wing paramilitary activists. And, you know, they did not, you know, Coca-Cola won in court. The activists did not win in court, but there was a global boycott against Coca-Cola for their role in hiring these paramilitary groups that were targeting trade union activists. So we're thrilled to be bringing this story to the festivals co-sponsored by Coca-Cola.
That's cool. Obviously, you're looking for passionate work. What does it mean to you to be a filmmaker? You're not just making something that's for entertainment value, but I was moved by the film. I think that's what you're going for. Is that why you continue to work TV, film, and what you have been able to produce? Is that the motivation behind it all?
Yeah, and I know that this topic can be tough. You know, it's people facing displacement. It's the earth facing irreparable damage. But also, you know, so much of this film is about lifting up the people. It's about the food and the music and the culture. And I think we really want people to come away from this film, you know, not feeling hopeless, but really feeling hopeful, like there's something to be done, and that people are doing it, and that we can support people that are on the front lines, really making a difference to protect the earth, to protect their communities, to protect their culture. That this is not too late, you know, and so we want people to feel the emotion of the resistance that's happening. And you know, I think so often when we watch these films, you know, it's just, you know, they call it like trauma porn, right? It's just showing what's wrong. And I want to show that there is hope, that there is something to be done, that people are doing it, that and that what people are fighting for is really beautiful. You know, I hope there's a lot of beauty in this film too.
Of the three places, did you get to connect with anyone in particular at these places that really made a personal change in you, getting to meet someone new, fresh like that? Was there anything you could share with us about the personal connection of making something like this?
First of all, right in the very beginning of the film, going to Navajo Nation, I didn't really realize there are places like within the boundaries of the continental U.S. where people do not have running water, they do not have electricity, they don't speak English at all. Many of the people we talk to just speak like Dene, the language of the Navajo people, and that there is this thriving culture like right here in the U.S. was incredibly moving to me. I mean, honestly, one of the most inspiring people that I met in this process was Ivy Camille, and I'm so grateful to have worked with her. But in every place, the people we met were amazing, and being there with Ivy Camille is amazing because I think seeing her as the filmmaker who knew these struggles firsthand allowed people to open up to her and share things with her. And the film is in 7 languages, including several indigenous languages rarely captured on film. We were in people's homes and in their lives in a really intimate, personal way, and it took years to do this film, and the whole time we just felt this responsibility to help these stories get out because we were so moved by these stories, and we feel the weight of that trust that people gave us with their stories.
With that in mind, there are a couple of people in the film that sadly have passed since the release of it that are important parts in the film. As a testament to not only the history of these people, of the lands that were taken from them, the displacement, this very much seems like an opportunity to give a history, but also give a longevity and a furthering telling of some of these places that we may not have in the future. How important as a document is your work, and in particular this film?
Well, first of all, I'm not giving up on them yet. I believe we will have these places in the future. I'm not giving up. But, and on these cultures and on the languages, people are really fighting and building. And in fact, a lot of Ivy Camille's community, they, were kind of born without their language and their culture. And some of what we're documenting in the film is these young people, they're like teenagers while we're filming, are, working on learning their language and cultural traditions like pottery making that they hadn't really grown up with, and they're going back to learn. So, if anything, I think some of these languages are growing now. And I hope that we can be some part of that process of supporting people, lifting up and preserving and amplifying their culture.
The festival circuit's one way for the film to get out, but what are some of the other endeavors of getting this through public broadcasting, through teaching this in schools, getting this shown in different areas? As far as reach for this film, what are you hoping to do? What are you looking at? What are you possibly looking to venture out to?
Yeah, well, first of all, go see us at powerlands.org. You can get more information. We are definitely going to schools. We're definitely going to indigenous communities where, we are going to Colombia. We're going to Oaxaca, the places that we filmed. We're going to Europe, where we'll definitely be in. We're pretty early on in the run. It just came out a couple months ago, but we've already got a lot of events coming up in high schools and colleges. Actually, Ivy Camille is not here right now because she's showing it at her former high school today, probably right at this moment. We encourage people to reach out to us. We want to bring it to your community. We want your support. So powerlands.org.
I love it. I'd love to ask, just, I know you're in the process of getting this out there, but what's next for you? If Ivy shared with you about what's next for her, or how she wants to continue, can you share with us what's down the line for you guys, or how we can keep an eye on what's next?
Yeah, Ivy Camille is working on a couple more projects that are really exciting. I'm not going to do as good a job as her as describing it, but she's working on this film. It's about 20 years ago, this woman was trapped in a cave, and it was at that time, I think, the biggest cave rescue in U.S. history. She was trapped there for days. There was a huge rescue team, and that woman was Ivy Camille's mom. So she's doing this documentary on her mom and this big cave rescue she was involved in. Super exciting. She's also doing a kind of in preliminary stages on this documentary on missing and murdered Indigenous women. I am working on a hybrid science fiction documentary, a documentary made in a future with no police or prisons, also in preliminary stages, but working with Walida Marisha, who's a brilliant Afrofuturist writer and activist. And yeah, I'm excited for what will come next.
Well, Jordan, thank you for bringing the film here, for coming in person too. I think it's a big deal that it's here, and the great dichotomy of what we've been able to talk about is alive with it here. But also thank you for the 7 years of making this film. It was one of the more powerful films to watch, and I hope you were right. I hope we can save everyone. I love it.
Thank you, and thank you for helping bring these stories out. Thank you to everybody here in Bentonville for welcoming us, the staff and volunteers at the festival, and all you media makers here.